Much has been said about how overseas Filipino workers' remittances are practically a buffer against financial crisis in this country. And yet the sad reality is that banks don't lend to them for lack of a credit history. In today's Salvi Says, our resident financial advisor, Salvi Duplito, talks about how this might soon change.
Here's a shocking truth. Banks find it very hard to lend to overseas Filipino workers, that portion of the population who bring in more than $2 billion to the country every month.
The reason is simple, although difficult to accept. Banks simply cannot gauge the creditworthiness of overseas Filipino workers. It's not that they don't want to lend, but prudent banking practices stop them from doing so. The situation is frustrating. There are around 10 to 12 million overseas Filipino workers out there. The government says the number of skilled workers are rising, and that must explain the continuous rise in remittances every year. Figures from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shows that OFW sent $2.1 billion in September, a 6.1% growth compared with the same period last year. From January to September of this year, total dollars sent has reached $17.6 billion already. Since 2000, remittances have been growing by an average of 9.7% monthly. And yet, even as they help keep the economy afloat, OFWs find it hard to get a loan to buy a car or a home or start a business. Something has to be done. Burton, country manager and partner at FICO's Philippine branch, says FICO is putting together the metrics so that it can help banks create a credit score for OFWs who want to get a loan.
You want to reach out to them with a score that's not like everybody else because they're not like everyone else. FICO have done it in Mexico, we've done it in Brazil, we've done it in different countries. This score, when it rolls out, within the next 12 months, when it rolls out in the Philippines, will open that market to 10 million people.
That's a phenomenon that's bound to boost the economy further, especially if the borrowings are geared towards starting or expanding a business. It's also going to help overseas professionals gain more access to better employment because employers in advanced countries require prospective hires to show their credit scores to determine their character.
If this model succeeds, the same can be used to create opportunities for lending to fisherfolk, farmers, and other segments of society that has not had access to capital in our so-called growing economy.
I'm looking at that being a market even 3 times as big as OFWs. What I see here are people who need to buy a boat. Yolanda hit, destroyed thousands and thousands and thousands of fishermen's boats and livelihood. And the way they got, I mean, I was able to, my company gave money to buy boats for them, things like that. But that's momentary. That doesn't fix a life cycle.
Traditional bankers view farmers, fishermen, and other similar industries as risky. All banking insiders know and acknowledge that it will take a huge paradigm shift for banks to risk the money entrusted to them by depositors by lending to farmers and fishermen. But Burton said using a credit scoring system to reduce the risk takes only 3 things.
In the U.S., we can build a FICO score on 3 things: that they're not dead, yeah, that they have some trade experience in the last 6 months, and that a trade line they have, maybe credit, they have some way to prove that they have some viable business going on, life going on. We can build a score from that type of thing. So what I see happening is you have a FICO score in the country and you have overlays to that score that look at specific segments of the country and help them to be viable or scoreable.
Such a development will be a huge boost in the arm for financial inclusion efforts in the country.
And if it comes to the point that we reach the saturation that we have in the U.S., where 85% of the population have access to credit, then the country has changed. And it's changed in a way that won't really matter about, you know, politics or whatever. It will really be not a socialization of the country, but an empowerment of the people to be able to have access to the country's money, if you will. I do believe that in a country, the country belongs to its people. I mean, you know, all of its people own that country. Now, you can't socialize it and just distribute the wealth to everyone, but that doesn't work, right? But what you must do is you must allow everyone to have access to exchange the resources of that country, to be able to access credit and be able to borrow and buy and sell within that country. When you empower the people to do that, it really doesn't matter about the politics. It really doesn't matter about those things. It really allows the people to control the economy. So what they want to buy, if they want to buy electric cars, they buy electric cars, not, you know, what cars are given, you know what I mean, or what are made available. So they're able to step up, they're able to move over, they're able to change jobs because they have access to the resources of the country.
For now, what these sectors have access to are high interest-bearing loans from loan sharks. Borrowed money from these sources bury them deeper in debt.
When you look at a national inclusion program and you want to actually empower and embetter the people, you have to come up with something that firstly is equal to everyone, right? So everyone pays the same rate, you know, based on their risk. Those things are what really build national inclusion and break the cycles of poverty that, you know, that we face here in the Philippines and that we faced in the U.S. for how many years. So I think that's really what I'm excited about.
Financial inclusion is not just a crusade for those on the lower rungs of society. The more of our countrymen get access to financial services, the more the economy grows, the more banks grow. This is truly a tide that lifts all boats.
That's our show today. I'm Edric Mendoza. Send us your money questions via email, Facebook, or Twitter, and view this episode again at anc.yahoo.com or at iwanttv.com.ph. Join us again tomorrow as we bring you more tips on how to save, invest, and manage your money. Thanks for watching.